Hey, well, welcome to another episode of the Operation Grow Show, Season 5, Episode 36. I think it is. Shit. There we go. Fuck it up as usual. Wouldn't be a show if I didn't. Yeah, it is 36. I just seen it pop up now. Cool. And so on that front, welcome everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Hey, Shreby, good to see you. We got Chris Gunjik, sorry, Chris here. Sorry, Gunjik. I don't know if I could. Chris, we'll just go with that. Lefty and
No worries.
DMF. So hey, Lefty, how things going with you, bud?
I'm doing good, man. Keep myself busy still with the greenhouse and keeping the harvest going. Everything, kind of seems to want to, finish all I want. So it's keep me on my toes. So I've been trimming and chopping and defoliating and doing it again and again. But it's going good, man.
And
Everything's
again,
going
and
pretty good.
again.
Yeah, exactly. But
Rinse,
yeah, it's going
repeat.
pretty good.
Oh, no, excellent. And are you doing anything with the trim at all, or just you're not at that stage yet. You're just pulling leaves off. What do you actually have to do? Okay, so now do you have to get rid of them in any particular way? Do you have to measure up everything that you're getting rid of or anything like that? No, just chuck it.
As far as the hemp goes, I don't have to do anything. I'm not, I'm gonna keep a lot of the trim. Use it for my wife's medicine. A lot of the hemp I'm gonna use for my wife's medicine. But yeah, I'll be keeping the trim. I do a lot of hash making, stuff like that. I'll take that and make it into edibles and oils and all kinds of stuff. So I'll definitely be keeping all the trim leaf from all of that. And yeah, I'll be keeping all the trim leaf from all my stuff, all the larvae stuff. I keep all that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I guess also because it's hemp, it's not hot, so you can do what you like with the end product, the fiber and all of that. Whereas all of the stalks and everything like that, or all the material I gather from high THC product, they got to be a little bit more careful with because it's all high THC essentially, so it's going to be handled and gotten rid of under a more controlled manner. So I was just curious if you were under the similar one, but given that it's not cannabis.
Yeah, the hemp flower I can definitely, like go and sell in markets and events and stuff like that. Being that it's, it's flower and it's tested and it's underneath of that 0.30% for hemp. As soon as you start concentrating it, you're concentrating it and it's no longer underneath that 0.30. No matter what you do with it, unless you're sending it to a lab and getting a CBD isolate, and now you're putting on all kinds of processing and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll just, the stuff I make, concentrates, edibles, oils, stuff like that. I'll be used in house or given to friends. But yeah, I can't legally sell any of that kind of stuff because it's all concentrated at that point.
Yeah. Oh well, shucks, just gonna have to use it yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and we have a legal rec market here now too, and my wife's medical card holder, so it's no issue for me to have anything like that.
Nice. And Shruby, good to see you, sir. How are things going, buddy?
Pretty good. Kid's gonna be due next week. We're gonna see if it's gonna share the same birthday.
Nice.
Congrats.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Garden's going well. I just popped a bunch of new strains last night by Irie.
Yeah, I saw the post, like almost everything by
Yeah, everything was so.
the catalog.
For the most part, I'm just trying to find my keepers. Just going through that, doing my restock. Week 3 of flower in the other tent, and yeah, same thing. Golden Goat's still killing ass.
Yeah. Nice. Is that still the from season whenever? Nice.
Yep.
Hey, it's still going. Good man. Good
Yep.
to see. Good to see.
I think I've done it 4 runs now, 5 runs. Yeah, that's.
And are you finding that how it compares now to when you ran it the first time? In terms of have you seen that you know how to deal with it better, or it's just
So I had a little section of cuttings I took specifically of that in the beginning, where it was just pretty much tried to herm them. I tried to stress them out and see what I can push it. And I literally had that thing going for 3 months, that little project, and it was just nothing happened. Nothing happened to that plant. I even left it in a small pot, like a solo cup, and let it flower out like under 24-hour light just from root stress, and it didn't herm on me. So yeah, that's solid. So as of development now, it's like I can expect that I know what to see it from that plant when the way it reacts. So I'm trying to find plants that actually match up with that for feed schedule and like EC levels, and yeah, it's going pretty well.
And did you adapt like any of the feeding with it? So have you found that you've improved the yield from the plant overall, not just in yield, not just so overall yield referring to not just weight. I mean, quality of final product. Yes. Yeah, you find you've gotten better at it.
Yep,
tweaked it.
I know it's 72 days. That thing's done exactly 72 days consistently. That's where I like it. Also, the THC testing, it went from 28.5 the first batch. Now I'm hitting like 31, 32. So it just varies a little bit. It's solid, man. Solid. And it's got that pine taste every time, like Pledge, the cleaner. It's one of my faves.
Very nice. Very nice. And I guess also that consistency comes from it being a mature cut now. So that's why that 72 days thing is like clockwork, because it's mature, ready to go plant. The second you flip the lights, its clock starts. It's not, from seed, it's difficult to tell roughly from when you flip those lights to when it should be, flowering should finish.
Yeah. I've also had the experience now of gifting to people and seeing it grow outdoors, and it produces just as well, if not better, outdoors. I find it gets a little more stretchy outdoors though. So it's nice to see. It still keeps that hardy stalk, and it does really well in the environment up here. Although this season generally for Ontario has been really wet, so powdery mildew has been a kind of a bastard for everybody.
Growing outdoors, yeah. Wow, I think it's quite interesting if you're growing outdoors at that latitude. I forget, it's probably quite a bit further south than we are. So, yeah. And you, GMF, so how things going with you, buddy?
Oh, dude, I can't complain, man. I'm a happy camper, feet are above ground. I'm hanging out with y'all. I consider myself an extremely fortunate man. Finally got my test results back. So I now have an idea of what's happening in fermentation. So we can get into that a little later. That's kind of fun. Yeah, a little unusual stuff. I'm working a couple of my breeding projects right now. Just about to breed out my golden goat. It's a few CK by Golden Goat. So it's just about to go into an expansion run because I started out with only a few seeds of that. So it's getting ready to go into its, F2 just to get it out to start selecting from. So that's always kind of fun. I always like getting into that F2 generation because I never know what the next round's going to be. It's more fun that way. That's about it. Got my next PCK by the Cough. Those are getting popped pretty soon, so I can start the next project. And yeah, I've been running my line breeding project, so I'm running biodiesel in 2 different lines, hopefully to bring them back together. And that's actually one that I ended up fermenting. My tall, vigorous one, the one that grows ridiculously, that's the one I ended up using for the fermentation. So it's kind of fun that way. It's not the short squat one. It's the tall one that I can't get to stop growing. So that's about it. It's about all it's new and exciting though, man. Just doing my little experiments, doing my little weirdness.
Oh, cool, man. That'd be interesting to see. Yeah, we'll get into those, the results that came back from there. I'm kind of curious to see, hear more about those. And Chris, how things going with you, buddy?
Cheers, Pete. Cheers, guys. Thanks again. Sorry I haven't been around, but yeah, I just
you've been missed.
Yeah, I missed you guys too. Been a little crazy fall here, but yeah, just been right now I'm working on the Starstruck. That stuff is just going into flower, the Arise, and my veg tent is now going to sorry, I'm in the grow, so it's loud.
Okay.
Sorry. What do I got running? Oh, so I just put in.
Are you able to show us the grow? Or not?
Actually, probably not right now. I'm not. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I've got to.
Only if it's cool, man. I was just otherwise no, it's fine.
What do I got? Oh, I got Lefty's Wooderson Banana OG that's coming up that I just dunked, and Piranha will be my net. That's my veg tent for this. My 2 veg tents. One will be the Banana OG Arise, and one will be the Piranha. So I'm excited to see what this one does. High hopes.
Nice, man. I'm not laughing at what you think. Yeah, I can't. You're in the grow room. No, cool, man. Cool. So,
I'm just gonna move something out of my grow room before I put on my camera. I got some odd plants in there.
yeah,
You got to move that robot, huh?
Yeah, this sex robot's got to be moved. Quick,
Exactly.
It's been in there watering.
What are you doing, Doug?
Why is that cucumber like that?
Oh dear. Ah, so yeah, these results you got back from the lab, GMF. Hey, Raptor, how things going, buddy?
Cheers, all. Go ahead, Gma. You're saying your results.
It's
Or not.
muted.
Oh, sorry. Taking the dog out. Making
All
coffee.
right.
Yeah. Good to see you, Raptor, man. Thanks for dropping in, bud.
So yeah, the results that you got back from this fermentation.
Sure. I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and share it on my other screen here. Okay, the picture you can see of me up there, that's actually a picture that I took of one of the fermented buds. So I don't know if you can pin my picture before I show the actual share. Like you see how the trichomes have yellowed out and it's turned kind of a golden color. That was one that I picked, I think 3 weeks before it was ready, and I fermented it just because I wanted to see what happened. So again, there's physical evidence that there's things happening in this fermentation. So now I actually have some, it says host disabled participant sharing. Might you
hang
enable
on.
it?
Sorry, I may do.
Sorry.
I might. There we go. It's enabled.
Thank you, sir. So I took the sheets that they gave me were much bigger, but I basically just broke out the basics that we would want to see. And on the left, or my left, you've got, which I believe would also be the same reflected on the screen. We'll have sample A, and that was unfermented. And on the right, you've got sample B, right? Now, this is just part of a project. This is not a finished project. So it's going to be another couple generations till this strain is actually bred to the one it's meant to go to. But so this is just kind of something I happen to have along the way. It clones really well. So I happen to be able to put up a couple of plants that look exactly the same, that grew vigorously. So the unfermented sample came in at roughly 17.5% THC. So nothing screaming, nothing outrageous, nothing to write home about. This is just, again, it's one step along a breeding process. The interesting thing is in the terpene analysis. So you can see basically, we've got THCA, the acid form, and then we've got Delta 9, the decarboxylated version. And those are both listed, but the total conversion for THC, you've got to actually apply a conversion factor to THCA because it loses part of its molecular weight when it becomes Delta 9 THC. So they add those two together to get your overall percentage score. If you'll notice too, kind of the interesting thing in this, the CBG ratios, not only between sample A and sample B, are we actually taking stuff out of the THC acid column and increasing our Delta 9 column. And that might explain exactly why we're able to eat it and not have, and actually get an effect, because we're able to actually get 7.2% Delta 9 already decarboxylated and ready to go. That may be part of that fermentation process, why it's actually more of it's activated than a traditional curing method. On the other side of it, what really stood out to me is, I mean, we expect some degradation, especially whenever it comes to things aging, stuff like that. You know, everyone always, that's just what we expect. That's why most people are like, oh, fresher is better, right? Normally that would be true. But if you compare the values of the terpenes down here, two very interesting terpenes happen to stand out in the fermented sample. And they actually increased due to the fermentation. Pinene ended up in the fermentation sample being 135% of the original value. So pinene actually increased, and these are the exact same date, the exact same things run side by side, but simply due to the curing method, when it comes to the terpene profile, we've been able to increase not only pinene to 135% of the original value, but another much more rare terpene, well, not more rare, but less common, called fentyl alcohol, right? Fentyl alcohol is formed, I believe, just if I remember reading it correctly, because I was reading this, you know, the other night, all excited. It's the isomerization of geranyl phosphate to linylyl phosphate, right? And that chemical synthesis produces fentyl alcohol. Where most of us recognize fentyl alcohol from is the biggest thing it's used for is in the perfume industry, because it is literally what we think of as perfumey, right? The plant we know it most for is basil. So that very aromatic element of basil that you get, not necessarily when you taste it, but when you just crush it up and you can really smell it volatilize, that should be the fentyl alcohol. And so basically the whole hypothesis behind this was just that by putting it through this fermentation, we're going to alter the chemical structure of the terpene profile. And I think we've proven that happens. Now, do we know the control mechanisms? Do I know exactly which way I'm going to turn the dials next to try to actually change these values? No. But now at least we have some tangible proof that two samples, or at least I have some evidence. Obviously, there's plenty of things I could have messed up, but I have some tangible evidence that two samples taken at the same time from the same plant side by side, but then put through different treatments, can end up with different profiles. So it's just kind of neat to be able to think, okay, I mean, not only can we do decarboxylate and all that stuff, this is all stuff we expected. We expect the degradation of these manager cannabinoids from their A form, their acid form, to their active. I mean, we expect this part, right? What we have always been less clear on is what's happening to the terpene profile when we go through these kind of different curing processes. And I think this, for me, has been the interesting part, is seeing the pinene jump up and the fentyl alcohol. And both of those are things that are very pungent to us, you know, in our sensory analysis and stuff. You know, a little more fentyl alcohol goes a long way.
It didn't go in and break it down any. I mean, what I also see as interesting is there's some that seem to be, so from a terpene perspective, there seems to be some that are quite stable. The cis-noriadol, oh, fuck me, I can never do these things, whatever.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Yes, third from the bottom. I mean, that was pretty stable. This guaiol disappears altogether and you get, well, nerol as well. That's also really stable. That doesn't change much.
Well, and then the drop is in terpenine, right? That major dominant, right? Terpenine has lost a lot of its weight.
And the phenylephrine. Phenylephrine.
Yeah, that dropped a lot of its molecular weight as well by percentage. Absolutely. I mean, and this is, we're talking about things on a very minute scale. So, but by comparison, that's why I put the percentages next to it. That's kind of the way to look at how different the molecules become, because this is all done in milligrams per gram and it's done in percentages. So we really got to look at what the change rate is. You know, I wasn't expecting any of these things to have any crazy scores in any particular direction. That's part of the reason I used this for this test. I didn't want to see any crazy numbers spiking anywhere, right? What I wanted to see was what the differences were. So it's interesting for me.
CBG, yeah, so that's that decarboxylation process there,
Mhm.
operating on the CBG as well.
Absolutely. And you're always going to lose molecular weight from the decarboxylation process from it actually becoming active. But CBG, as we're finding out more and more, is one of the most potent molecules when it comes to your nervous system, when it comes to pain effects, when it comes to how your body feels. That actually is one of the biggest things when it comes to body effect. The other interesting note that you'll see absent from both of these sheets is two things I would have expected: CBD and CBN. Neither test registered any detectable level. One would have expected on the other side of this, because we're talking about what we expect would happen, I would have expected some of the THC would have degraded to CBN. That didn't happen.
Yeah. So none of the so not the sedative effect so much to speak of.
Right. But I think the body effect might be the increased amount of CBG that's available.
Yeah.
At least this is the anecdotal inference.
Yeah. Which would always you go down the rabbit hole of that of anecdote. That could also be why it became effective. If it's aiding you it's a great way of storing it. It just so happens at the same time it's got these extra side effects, such as pain relief. You're using it, your nomadic group.
And some of these things stabilize, which is pretty handy, right? That's, on the other side of it, think about the fact when I sent the sample in, this was harvested June 16th. So we're talking about a sample that's just coming up on, looking at 4 weeks, 16 weeks or 15 weeks old or something like that. So this is not necessarily yesterday's product.
Yeah. So, very cool. Very cool.
Hard to draw any stiff conclusions from this, obviously. Whenever you do science, all it ever does, and this is just citizen science. This isn't, I'm not claiming any kind of authority or anything. I'm just an idiot who likes to play around and who's dumb enough to actually do things and try to waste his crop. So, I'm not, this is just another step though. Makes me more curious.
If anybody else wanted to go out there and do a similar exercise, what is the actual financial hit?
Well, from all the companies that I called around, and I did a lot of phone calls, it looks like the industry standard, if you want to put a sample to anyone, is around $300. Or I'm sorry, $150. It's going to be 75 typically in that neighborhood for the cannabis or the potency test, and it's going to be roughly $75 for a terpene test. The only couple places that I actually saw through market, and I'm kind of obsessive, I called everybody. The only places that I saw that you can actually get any break are some of the more mature markets where you can do walk-ins. So for example, if I were to go to, I believe it's a couple of the walk-in labs in, there's Massachusetts, Maine, Pennsylvania. I want to say it's MCR, MRC. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But for example, there you can get in for about half the price. They'll do 50 for one test, 25 for another, $75, you're out the door. But I think they're also relying on volume, right? So anyone who's having to run a lab where they're taking in, these mail-in samples, they're typically requesting pretty large sample sizes. And it's going to run you about $150 a test for potency and terpenes. Now going forward, because I'm kind of just playing with, to me, the interesting thing is more what's happening in the terpene profile. I may just do the terpene test.
Yeah.
So,
and that would be good. I mean, it would be interesting if anybody, anybody in chat and that who does decide to do something similar. I think what would be cool is figuring out a way of, all right, well, let's catalog the information, put it all together, and then look at how to attribute the process with the raw material and the output and see what the commonalities are and where there is a way of picking out a pattern in the process and go, okay, if you always see the, again, the whole idea of being able to identify all the relationships that are there and say, oh, every time you want this sort of terpene profile, great. These processes all result in this increased terpene profile, depending on the different style of thing you want to try and do, that you have a method for doing to.
Well, and this,
Yeah.
I mean, this then just asks the question, okay, the next thing to ask is, do we increase the temperature on the ferment? Do I increase the time on the ferment? Do I increase the stages? So instead of just doing
and
one
a test for
ferment,
every one of those steps.
right. But this is unfortunately how it's going to start, is, figuring out how to start picking apart this process.
We
little
need
by little.
we need a lab to sponsor the show. Anybody got access to a lab? We need a lab to come in and sponsor the show and say, okay, we're interested in what you're doing here. Let's see how we can make this work. There's got to be a way of doing it. Because look, I mean, there are labs that put the results up for grabs on their website. So
Yeah, I had to check the
and
box, not public.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and so that's what's interesting is that, and they'll show you what their sample size was for coming up with those results that they get. So that's pretty cool, and that's all open, open source from the data world or the software world. So then they must be interested in it. I figure out a way of getting that to work. Hey, Magma, how's
My
it going?
problem is I'm interested in
Hey.
it, so I don't know what. Hey, Magma, what's up, buddy?
Hey, just listening in, doing some late garden work. But I think it's really interesting. It's almost like you could say that maybe there's certain varieties that are more beneficial to ferment, where they would have like terpenes that would react positive to it. And maybe there's other varieties that definitely are like not meant to be fermented.
I think you're totally right. I think that nailed it. Because that's the whole question, is now we got to pick apart what are the precursors and what are they turning into during this process. It's kind of like working backwards from a chemical synthesis. Usually when we do a chemical synthesis, we're intentionally going through breaking one bond, replacing it with another. Here, we're going to have to play detective and kind of work our way backwards.
And then there's probably a time factor that plays in too. Like you could do like a short ferment and get a certain result, and maybe with a longer ferment, you're going to be making changes other places.
And again, any lab that wants to step forward with free use of your facilities.
Yeah. This is one of them that's talking about that makes somebody's written, which is cool. Somebody's written a UI for it, and I'll post a link to it in a second. But this gives you, the breakdown. You have all the different terpenes, the percentage variance, so standard deviation, I guess, what you could expect to see variance, and the stability of them. And also gives a cannabinoid breakdown. And this is pulling it from PSI Labs and SC Labs, whichever ones those happen to be, I'm not too sure. But yeah, and they've got do an exact match. Otherwise you pick up everything. So, they've averaged out the results there. I think that's pretty cool. So you can pull quite a bit of information from here. And the fact is, ones that had a small sample size, you could possibly ignore, but everything with a decent sample size you would take.
Well, that's part of the problem here. My one experiment, I can't really take one as a sample size. I can't really do anything with one other than let my imagination go hog wild and come up with something better.
What we need is like a bunch of people to, again, you see, that's the whole thing. If you crowdsource the crowdsource that data and have everybody, you create an SOP and say, right, this is what you need to do, follow this, submit it, see what the result set is. Okay, sure, the actual genetic material might be different, but if you're interested in trying to isolate out those terpene profiles, you could use databases like this to say, okay, we'll find things that have a similar starting terpene profile that we're going to put through the fermentation process. It can be also, I mean, look, as it goes to show, these strains aren't all that different from each other at the end of the day. So you could, there's definitely some where certain terpenes only appear in that group that you're not going to find them anywhere else. So if you want that, you're going to have to dip into that bucket. And then, yeah, it would be really interesting to be able to just say, all right, well, let's take that. Oh, brain just went far. Damn it.
Can I add another
Mhm.
layer on there and just make it even more complicated? This should mean I could put two particular strains together, ferment them together, and end up with a third thing, right? So I could take buds off, right? I could blend the buds together pre-fermentation, ferment them together, and actually get smells and flavors off of combining potentially the most volatile compounds from each. So now we're into cigar blending. Now we're into tobacco blending. Now we're
I
into
do
Scotch
believe this
blending,
is a single bud cure.
right? But this is where I think the next step is, right? If we're going to mature this industry, and yes, it's maturing fast, this is what it is realizing, okay, where are the different levels it can go to? Maybe the trick isn't going to be appellations like everyone wants to do. Maybe it's really going to be in blending and layering and aging and curing and, stuff like that. Who knows?
I used to do a lot of blending when I did BHO back in the days. I had some years I just smoked BHO, and that seemed to work really nice. Like you'd have certain varieties that you could mix together, and that was like really unique, the mixes that we got.
I'm sure there must have been one or two as well where it was like, whoa, okay, that was a mistake.
I can't really say I had any experiences like that, but I felt like most of the times it was like you could take something that complemented the other one, and it just be like really nice combined.
Yeah. It's a nice thing. I guess that would be where, again, when it goes like really big and commercial for consistency, that's the whole thing. Normalize it, homogenize it, blend it all together, and there we go. It's consistent.
And a lot of times you hear a misconception, especially like I've heard this specifically come out of a few people. Oh, Budweiser must use the same recipe every time, the same hops every time. That's exactly wrong. In order to make a consistent product year in, year out with agricultural products, you have to change your recipe every year. You have to make micro adjustments to the profile to actually hit that target. And they have very well-paid brewers that's their job, to hit that target every year with hops that don't taste consistent year to year. There's no hop tastes the same every year. We know there's some years that Amarillo tastes like garlic, and you can't do anything about it. Nobody uses Amarillo that year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was interesting. It's pretty cool to see where it goes. I think it's going to be this whole step into, I think the doing the fermentation curing and things like that. That's definitely, I like to see it starting to gain some traction. Really would be cool to see that.
You think you could do the fermentation within the blend, so it would be like a complete product?
Could I? Absolutely. I could absolutely do it.
And inside the banana leaf too?
I don't see why not. It just becomes a matter of handling its environment correctly. So the one thing this has kind of taught me is, after reading everyone else's protocols, developing a protocol that's different from everyone else's, and then running it and still getting these results, is that yes, that's probably more than doable. Whether we want to do it or not, whether it'll taste good that way, I don't know. We'll have to find out. But I say that's all the more reason to experiment, Magma. I like I like what you're thinking.
Yeah, no, I've seen some people doing banana leaf rolling papers, so I was thinking that's a good match.
Only one way to find out.
Yeah.
Make a bunch of stuff and get really ripped.
Yeah, no, I think you have to make a SOP for me to do that.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm going to try a few more and I'm going to see if I get anything drastically different. I'm going to try the knobs on this machine a few times. Like I said, I've already done things like adding acids and stuff like that, which don't do. But so, yeah, I'm still kind of playing around with what knobs to turn next. I don't know. There's really something that's making me, okay, this is going to sound crazy. The traditional methodology we have of affecting alcohols is typically exposing wood, typically white American oak, to different environmental conditions and drawing flavors out of it. So I'm really considering, and this is something I haven't mentioned to anyone yet, but I'm really fighting every fiber of my being not to do some oak aging and barrel aging.
Go for it.
To live somewhere where you can do a barrel.
Anyone. Well, we got ways of, so like in brewing, for example, I would say I want to make a bourbon beer, but I don't have a bourbon barrel. I can literally take white oak, char it, submerge those oak chips or whatever I charred up or cubes, submerge that in bourbon for a few months, especially because it's got more surface area until it fully penetrates it. Then add the cubes to my beer. Now I can pull those bourbon barrel flavors out. So yeah, it's just all about creating surface area. So they'll make different shapes to create the ratios of surface area that we want. And it also has to do with how the wood contracts and expands. So if you get it cold and hot, cold and hot, cold and hot, you actually increase that flavor that process of it giving off those alcohols, those flavor profiles like vanillin or those caramely notes. Those increase the hotter and cold, the more it swings through hot and cold.
Yeah.
So with fermentation, that could be very useful.
And then picking breeding lines based on that. But yeah, so how's everybody's little side projects coming on with the breeding side of things? Anybody getting around to popping more Lefty? How's it going there?
Right now, check on them.
This morning. Yeah, I started germinating mine this morning. So yeah, they're ready to go, man. We're on the way.
So these are the F1s of everything by Rise. Or
No,
is this specifically
I
just the
didn't do
banana
all.
urge?
It's just the Wooderson, just the banana OG Arise, and then I'm popping some of the Kandahar Afghani that I got. So yeah, that's what I got going on. But yeah, I got a few things to look through with the banana OG. I got a couple of good. I got some selections in there.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, and then see what comes out from those, and then you're looking to work that line, as in pick plants from that F1 generation to create your F2s, etc. Because you're looking to pick out those banana-y bits and pieces is what you were looking to pull into it, if I recall.
Right. Yep. I'm not sure which direction I'm going to go. I might reverse it, or I might go both directions. I may reverse it, and I might take it to an F2 as well. Work it both ways and see which way I can get that banana to come out quicker and lock that in.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. And then you, Shreeby, you were saying there that you've just popped a whole bunch.
Yeah, so I popped a bunch of new Iris stuff because I'm looking for a couple new males, and I'm also popped the breeding project stuff. So the cross with the CBD and the CBD hash plant, the Storm Shadow, and the AK-39, the Storm Shadow is what I'm working on. I left the Storm Shadow in the back pocket for now.
Cool. And the AK-39, where is that from? I couldn't find
Montreal. Was it Montreal Cannabis Seeds?
Yeah, I couldn't find any lineage information on that one in particular.
Give me a comment. I'll send you a link.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, the more I can find on that, it'd be fun. That's what I've been doing. I've been adding all these in, and generating all the different, like the family trees for them. And what was fascinating is that once you suddenly got past a certain, like doing all of the ones for the Simple Seed Company, going through all the different ones, and after I'd added about 15 of the seeds, it became really quick to add all the others because you go, no, it's already there. Oh, okay, it's just this cross with this. Oh, yeah, it's the same bloody cross, just with a different name. I mean, when does it change? You see these things that says it's OG Kush, this cut, so it's OG Kush. That's what it is. Yeah. Is it anything other than OG Kush? But then that name is what suddenly gets passed around, and then it's suddenly a cut of this. And you go, well, if it's a cut of this, it's a cut of OG Kush. It's not. It. I find it interesting how the names get justified. Well, I don't know. I think I've losing my train of thought on that one.
I mean, it's like go and say like your neck of the woods, Pete. I mean, cheese. I mean, Exodus cheese. Exodus was just a crew of dudes in the UK that found a nice pheno of cheese, right? And now, that's where Exodus cheese came from. It wasn't any different type of cheese. It was just cheese that was a good, pheno that these dudes found. It wasn't anything different, but I guess that's how people recognize it.
Yeah.
But it ain't anything different. It's just cheese.
And that's just a cut of skunk number one.
Which is just a cut of skunk number one. Yep.
Exactly. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is it's skunk number one, OG Kush, M-Dog shows up a lot. But and again, that's just one of the from that, and that's a hybrid of these other ones, and that's kind of the source of it all.
Yes.
And the second you step beyond that, it just goes into chaos zone. It's all over the show.
Once you added cookies, it got crazy, probably.
Well, actually, Cookies isn't so bad. Cookies is cut with a direct cross up with a land race sort of thing, so it doesn't actually have that much in its back lineage. I think is what I mentioned previously as well. Is the ones that seem to stand out are the ones that are actually very limited in their genetic pool. They're not these mass polyhybrids all over the show with 58 different plants in their lineage. And then when you say, is this, show me the connection between plant A and plant B, and you watch how many times, because plant A goes into this one, and this one, and those are all inputs. And so you go, hang on, this original Northern Lights is just repeated over and over and over and over and over again through all of these crosses that make its way, because it appears in all of these at some point through some back generation. So I would recommend that, you try to, if you would wanting to do anything for a breeding project, you'd really want to work with things that only have a maximum of maybe 2 to 3 generations to them. Otherwise, it becomes really chaotic.
I'm going to play with that NL5 next.
That should that's from.
I got a bunch of them. I got NL5 from 6 different breeders.
Interesting. Yeah.
Different generations, different, different cuts, all kinds of different stuff. So, I'm going to go through it, look at it, pick a couple of males, couple of females, do a semi-selected open pollination, just get a little flavor of everything in there. Just do it all in one room with all these different varieties from all these different breeders.
Yeah, and it looks like the top 3 landrace strains that come into play as well. It's Colombian, Mexican, Afghan, and then the next most popular sort of layer that gets introduced is Thai. Skunk number 1 certainly crops up, and you got the Indian one, and then you got haze showing up. That nobody else can see. And that's it, just sort of like the hierarchical, this hierarchical structure, and this is just based on the stuff that's in. So this is the hierarchy going down. Whoop, 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 whoop. I don't know how clear that's coming across. But so here's one out here that's got very little going into it. I don't know what goes. I mean, this shishka berry could actually have a shit ton of stuff in it, for all I know. But I don't know what it's one of its lineage. I only know about it. I don't know its full lineage, so that could change.
Shishka berry is really nice.
But yeah, as soon as you get down into this territory, yes, I
think Shishka berry is from Breeder Steve,
Yeah.
or from Cash Crop Can. He did some work with it too.
Yeah, I think Breeder Steve made it, so it's probably pretty old. So it's probably, either first generation hybrids crossed, or it's a first generation hybrid worked or something.
Yeah,
no, it's really nice.
So that's, I mean, like, so technically doesn't have that much going into it. It's fairly uncomplicated.
Calio, no?
You have a look at.
Yeah, that's correct. Magma. It's like, yeah, I can't remember. Calio by something.
And then Orion's gets a bit more complicated.
Oh, yeah.
Just a bit.
And that's that's the general trend. But again, what is this up here? You've got it's Mexican, Afghan, Colombian, skunk number 1.
Well, and you get into something like a Rise too, and you got unknown genetics in there.
Oh yeah. It's got quite a bit of Chemdog as well. So yeah, starts appearing. So being able to do that with the terpene tree, that's what I want to get to. And then being able to say, all right, with this process, or you could start to say this plant has this terpenes, and these were the soil conditions. You could put a lot of that information in and make it all queryable, searchable.
Well, and looking at your design, I think we could just emboss a web. I can show you basically a brewer's web, what we do for brewing, some very similar, just replace it all with the terpene notes, and we can place a spider web into each circle so that when you click on it, you can then compare the spider web of, say, any 2 or 3 circles.
Yeah, it may happen, yes. That's quite complicated.
And then you can trace which terpenes that come through.
Yeah. And what process, and look for commonalities. Again, not just everything from this. You certainly see, well, anything from this group when they're grown this way produce these sort of outputs. This is ultimately the measurable bit at the end of the day. How it looks is a little bit difficult to measure, really. That's subjective. Whereas taking terpene and cannabinoid profiles is very much objective data. That we can quantifiably measurable.
You don't have to be that objective. I think it can be more pinpointed, but I think it's like I think it's a part of training. So there needs to be like a standard, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm saying if you get a Sentinel for lab results, that's the best way of doing it. So you get he has the results. He has your numerical empirical data comes back. There's no having to worry about anything. That's the piece that makes it work.
Still though, like sensory training, like let's say you wanted to learn how to grade wine or other alcohols, like to become more familiar with the different flavors. I think they do like a course where they go through the different flavors, so all the people that do it can have like a baseline understanding of what's being said.
And just having, I think in one of those points we were discussing the other week as well, you get these like terpene flavor wheels, which will have very granular descriptions around the outside, like very specific, like lemon, lime, cherry, boom, 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 boom. And then it'll grow down to one layer, which is a little bit more general, that groups all of these into a slightly bigger category. And then the next layer in is even a bigger category that they get grouped in. And finally, you get down to at the base sort of terpenes that contribute to these, and that allows people to at least narrow it down into base terpene as based on what they are smelling. They can cluster it, and then as you see, there's ones where they're very broad spectrum, and some of them are very narrow spectrum profile terpenes. They don't produce a wide range of smells, and others produce an incredibly broad range.
Like even lemon, like if I say to you I got lemons, it means so many different things based on where you are. Like it could be a bitter lemon or a sweet lemon, or I think what I experience as an apple might not be the same like everybody else experienced like apple, and the same across a lot of flavors.
Yeah, but then that's why send them off, get them. We need it to become cheaper. So yeah,
you hear a lot of that. You hear a lot of that kind of talk when they're doing like mango tests. It's like all these tones of different fruits that are getting picked up in different places. And bananas even, I've heard, like when they have like more wild varieties, you suddenly get like these ice cream flavors, and I think there's a lot of
finding a way of being able to consistently have a consistent descriptive method that everybody can pick up fairly easily would be very handy.
Yeah,
but everybody smells slightly differently. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And if you smoke or don't smoke, you smell very differently.
Like, what if I don't have the receptor for pinene? Like, and that gets mixed up with something else, does that'll affect everything. So yeah, exactly what you're getting at. It's crazy to think, oh, what does it smell like? Oh, well, that's grapefruit. It's like, but I'm getting like something completely different. How did you get that? And it's also like, how did they hear someone already describe what that was going to be as well? So
predetermined bias.
Yeah, there are some biases, but you were saying something, Jima.
No, I know you guys get sick of this, but that's one reason the protocol when we judge beers is there's always multiple people judging a beer. So if someone comes up with an outside opinion or something like that, it typically gets discarded. So you always have multiple people doing a judging, even if it's just two at the first round. You always make sure the two of you but you fill out your whole score sheet before you guys are allowed to say a word to each other. You're not supposed to make any expressions with your face. You're not supposed to wrinkle up your nose. You're not supposed to, be emotive. When we judge, we sit there at the table, we sample it. And a lot of times it's funny waiting for the last person to taste it. And then we can all go, yeah, that's terrible, isn't it? Stuff like that. But there's kind of a rule.
The first person, the one's like, come on, man, hurry this up, dude.
Right. And nobody's supposed to give away. Right. We all sit at the table and try to do poker face until we can everyone's done with their judging sheet. Then we discuss it before we turn in our scores. That way we take care of any outliers. We make sure everyone's like, if I give it a 5 and you give it a 45, out of possible 50. Okay, there's something in between. Either someone got the wrong bottle, that's how we know to go ahead and bring other people in to evaluate it. So I think that's the trick when you're doing sensory analysis. Just have more than one person on the panel and look for outliers.
Yeah, and you can't be smoking it. It has to just be by smell it alone. Because
it's like the old,
That's a different
the
cup.
old,
yeah.
the old High Times Cup. You would go there, and they would have free buses to some of the coffee shops, so they would naturally win many years in a row. And you get like as much free merch and stuff as possible. So it wasn't very unbiased.
This is GH.
Yeah, they probably used that too back then. But yeah, but double
money.
yes.
Oh, hey, Lefty, did you have your Kind Cup event?
No,
Or is that still coming up?
It comes up. It's November 6th and 7th.
That's when it is. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I couldn't remember if it had been or not. Yeah, no. Be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah, got a message from Jeff today. He's getting my packs together. He's got a cool new banner he's sending to me. So yeah, man, I'm excited. Should be a good time. Lots of bands, lots of good food.
Nice.
Yeah.
Consumption,
Yeah, it's at a private
none of this
venue.
business stuff, like,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
this-
it's
we
at a-
take our business seriously, at these
Right.
weed cups. Come on, this is, we're just buying lights here. Come on. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. No, it works out well. It's at a private vineyard and they hold a lot of events. My buddy who's putting it on actually is in a band and they play there quite a bit. So he's like, yeah, it's all on us. Private event, we can kind of do what we want. It's been signed off on and everything. So yeah, it'll be a good time, man. If anybody's local and wants to come out, check it out.
Sweet, man. Sweet. Sounds good.
Handing out I'll be giving out some free seeds with purchases and I'll have some seeds of my own and we'll have all kinds of goodies. iRead Genetics. Yeah, bunch of stuff.
Shut up and take my money.
Cool, man. But so that'd be excellent to see how those are taking off, because now, yeah, again, everywhere's opened up for us. Whether we can go there is debatable. So we'll see how next year looks. It won't be this year. It's too soon to the end of the year. Only 2 months to go. Jesus Christ, that's moved quickly again.
It did go quick.
Depressing.
Ho, ho, ho.
Depressing. Anybody's seen the new
Yeah.
James Bond movie? Okay, let's ruin that. See how it ends. Die Hard. I mean, it's interesting. I believe it's divided opinion on that film. I'm certainly in the camp of.
Isn't this supposed to be the last one with him?
Yeah, it'll be quite a sequel if it isn't. All right, kind of figure out how you're gonna make this one work. Go for it.
Gotcha.
Bring Sean Connery back.
Yes.
That'd be
Tell you what, they're probably not that far away from being able to do it with all the deep fake, not only in just the visual, but also the voice side of it. They'd be able to bring him back quite comfortably in the next 10 years, 10, 15 years. We start to see the reemergence where it's not in that uncanny valley part where it's like, there's something wrong with that. It looks real, but it isn't.
All that's NFT
Chris
by
looks at
kids.
everything that's electronic.
It's like
I don't know,
pets. Sorry.
Daniel Craig should just keep doing them. I mean, look at Harrison Ford, man. They wheel him out to do more of everything. Like he's just crashing planes and still doing whatever he wants to. So, why not?
Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, this is a franchise that used to have, people called Pussy Galore and phrases like, I thought Christmas only came once a year. It's just, that's not the same. When they,
Octopussy.
it's like an old fart, but when they've stopped making when they ran out of his books and had to start coming up with their own storyline, that was it. It's like, no. Book stop the making the bloody movies. Then we wouldn't be debating about who should be playing the next James Bond. Leave it in the era in which it was written.
So you mean like they should have done for Game of Thrones? Once you run out of books, just stop.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to be able to make up what the author did.
Or even more so, if the series isn't done, the book series, maybe not make a
And
TV
start
series
making the TV
trying
series.
to say what's going on there.
You can get him to write a closer. That's part of the deal. Hey, man, you got to write a final chapter at least, and that way you can have a book that continues on after the TV series finishes. But we need a closer, not one that we have to shoot in the dark, so that we can get away with it. And unfortunately, just dim it down. Nobody needs to see it. Right. Well, on that note, brings us to the hour. How's everybody doing? Where can everybody find everyone? The usual sort of, I guess, sign off part. But by the way, next week will be a pre-recorded show. It's going to be the interview with Tyler from Family Tree Seeds. So, yep, just so everybody knows that's when will be happening.
Good guy.
And oh yeah, he's on
Embracing Organics.
On the Simple Seed side of things. So if you know what you're looking for, you might be able to find some of his stuff on there. Yeah. But on that note,
you're going to be raving next week.
No, just having a week off. Oh yeah, sorry. Yes. I'm going to be raving next week with all the kids. Feel the rush.
Remember the glow sticks.
Yeah. Can't harass the youngest one up at uni. Let's show you how this is supposed to be done, kids. 3:00 in the afternoon. Yeah, I know. I'm going to be out cold by 10. So let's get this going now. Show you how it's done, but just at a more reasonable hour of the day. So yeah, Lefty, where can everybody find you, sir?
You can find me at Lefty's Farm on Instagram on Cannabuzz. And yeah, check me out. Follow along with the Banana OG Pheno Hunt. It should be a fun time.
Cool, man. That sounds kind of a good one.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing what's coming from that. And Scrooby, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me on Tuesdays at Grow for Show, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Saturdays here. Instagram, should we do? Yeah.
Nice. And GMF, buddy?
It's usually in the garden or in the kitchen, man. Just holler at me on IG if I can be helpful to anyone. Genetic Memory Farms on IG, same place, and usually catch me over on Monday in the neighborhood or, hanging around with any of these usual suspects. I'm a lucky person in that, I think we've got a platform that Pete makes for us and, to actually kind of hang out and try to make our brains bumpy and not just, get into other nonsense. So I actually like the fact that we try to at least thank you, Pete, for making a spot where we can at least talk about this stuff.
My pleasure. Thanks to everybody joining in. That makes it easier, that's for sure. Magma, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me on the Instagram. And I think that's about it.
That's about it. Oh, excellent, man. And then Raptor, where can we find you, sir?
Raptor Grow. Find me Instagram, Raptor Grow, all one word. Also find me here, same time, same place. Always have fun here, great conversations. And yeah, you could also find me on the Neighborhood Grow Show on Mondays, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 Eastern. Hope to see you all.
Cool. And last but not least, Ganja Chris, where can we find you?
Cheers, Pete. Thanks so much. I usually hanging out with all these guys, trying to absorb all these fucking great pieces of nuggets of info. And yeah, here or Neighborhood Grows on Mondays, or Grow for Show on Tuesdays if it's an open panel. Thank you.
I can say I'm laughing at the response to somebody who brought the VIX comment for going to go raving. We were wearing masks years ago, way back in my youth. Repetitive music, yes, fantastic. And yeah, you can catch me at Operation Grow 2019 on Instagram, also at Peel Grow Systems, or the Simple Seed Co. God, the list is growing, man. It's becoming ridiculous. I should actually just come a little banner somewhere, figure out a way of doing that so it can be easily done. So there's the simpleseedco.com. That's where that's where you can get great deal on seeds, and actually we've just added a feminized seed range, and the pricing on those is a little different just because they're more difficult to produce. So have a look there. There are some feminized seeds on there now as well. We're gonna have a short, I guess, little after show if anybody would like to join in. Post the link now, but otherwise have a great one, and we will catch you guys